Guys, welcome back to ImWateringPSUs. Today we are upgrading my personal build. Now I've had this PC behind me for over 6 years. It's actually the first PC I ever built for myself, and the original configuration featured an i7-8700K and a GTX 1080 Ti. At the time that was a very high-end configuration, it was pretty much the best out there. Over the years I have upgraded it but kept the case, which is the NZXT Manta case, which is what I have in the banner of my YouTube channel and in my logo in general. Now, unfortunately, with the more recent needs I have for more storage space due to all the videos and in general for ease of upgradability, I will be building a whole new PC today. So we will be going from this i9-11900K and this RTX 3070 Ti to the next gen, and actually we are switching to AMD. Now we'll go over all the specs, but first you're probably wondering what's this briefcase behind me. And well, Crucial sent over their new T700 PCIe Gen 5 NvMe. So they are one of the sponsors of today's video, and I am basically switching from a Samsung 970 EVO Plus in that PC, which is a Gen 3 SSD with just 3000 megabytes per second of read and write speed, to this thing which supposedly does over 12,000 megabytes per second in read. So 4 times the previous one, and this is a 2TB model as well, but this is not going to be everything for the storage department, so stay tuned because there is actually much more in that regards. Now, we talked about the SSD, let's talk about the components. I'm going from this i9-11900K to the new Ryzen AM5 platform, but we will talk about them more in depth once we have them all lined up, so let's go. Here we are with all the components. Now the first thing that might come to your eyes is that I'm using a pretty old power supply, but this is not actually gonna be my final power supply, okay? It's just gonna be here for today, and then hopefully a brand I contacted will come through and provide us with some custom cables, and I will be using an 80 plus titanium power supply. This one is an 80 plus platinum, which is good. It's a very good power supply by EVGA, and 750 watts are actually plenty for this GPU and this CPU, but hopefully we'll be upgrading. Now, let's go over the proper specs. Now, the main platform is going to be around AM5, as I told you, and I'm going to be using the Ryzen 9 7900X. Now, why did I choose this CPU? Well, it is really just because of price. So, when dealing with companies, you really don't have to be a fanboy or have preferences. You just have to buy what's the better deal at the moment. We all have preferences still, so me personally, I do prefer a little bit the Intel architecture. However, if I can get a Ryzen for a good price, I will get the Ryzen. So in this case, I was able to buy this motherboard, the MSI X670p Wi-Fi Pro, for the Pro series, and this CPU together for 550 euros. Yes, that cheap. So they were a no-brainer. If I had to go with a Ryzen 9 and a proper motherboard, I would have paid much more, so we went with this route. And it supports Gen 5 PCIe NvMe, which is why, again, we're using this T700 from Crucial, and we're using the non-heat-sinked version because it's going to be our main drive, and the motherboard already has a heatsink. But again, they also have the with heatsink version if you need it. Now, let's discuss the other NvMe SSD that we're using. This one is from Verbatim. It's a bit of a less known brand. They focus on backup and dependability of hard drives, but they have just broken into the gaming and productivity department. This is their V7000G Gen 4 PCIe NvMe SSD, and I'm going to be using it for storage, but you're going to be wondering, why 7000 megabytes per second for storage? Well, because I store my videos and I have to access them very quickly, so I need high performance storage. Again, not as high performance as the Gen 5 though, so we can save a bit of money there and go with this one. I am probably just gonna be running this one because it has the integrated heatsink, but if you are gonna run a Gen 4 SSD without the heatsink, please get an external heatsink. What I have here is a Xilinx RGB cooler. I've covered this in the past. This will really help with your NvMe performance, but today we're probably not going to use it. Let's talk RAM. Now, Ryzen likes high-speed RAM until your RAM doesn't run anymore. So if you go higher than 6000 megabytes per second, it's useless because those motherboards are still too early in development. Those CPUs, their IMC, integrated memory controller, they are not too good. So we're going with some nice 6000 megabyte C38 32 gigabyte kit from XPG. It's their Lancer RGB RAM, and I've chosen this one simply because there is an anime girl on the package. That's the reason, and it looks nice in RGB. If I was more serious, I would have gotten probably I don't know, some crucial all black RAM, but no, we like the packaging, so we're going with this one today. With that said, what will cool this Ryzen 9, and it's a 12-core, 24-threaded CPU, it runs pretty hot. It goes to 95 degrees all the time, but we will be undervolting it to fix that. And we are pairing it with what is, at the moment, my favorite cooler in the market, and it's this one. Now, when I say favorite, I don't mean best performing, I just say favorite because I like the infinity mirror on this thing a lot. Because my previous build in the Manta had the original infinity mirror from NZXT in their X63. It was the first one in the market, I loved it, and I think this is the proper successor. If I had to go completely for a good value proposition, probably my picks would be this one for aesthetic and then probably the Arctic for performance. I think that's a very good contender. Then, since this one is white, I got a white Hyte Y60 case. Now this, amongst the new case, I've tried all the aquarium ones. You can find the iTech one on my channel, you can find the Max Gaming one on the channel. They are all aquarium-like, like the Lian Li O11 dynamic case. And now this one is the most unique one. It's from Hyte. They sent it over for review. And I liked it so much that it will be my daily case, at least for a while. We will take a look at it better, but the expandability is crazy, and it will finally allow me to have an ATX motherboard in a relatively compact case. Now, white case, white cooler, white RTX 4070 Ti from Gigabyte. Now, you might have seen this one already on the channel. The 4070 Ti is, in my opinion, the best value card on the high end for the 4000 series. So it was the logical choice for me to get around 70% of the performance of a 4090, but with a much lower price, at least here in Italy. So it was the obvious choice for me. We already discussed the power supply. I say it's time to get building. So as usual, let's start from the motherboard. "12 cores, 24 threads, this small. Isn't it amazing?" Okay, it's time for the anime girl to get into action. We now have the motherboard done, 32 gigs of DDR5 mounted, 4 TB of NvMe SSD, a Gen 5 and a Gen 4 mounted. Please note how much everything matches together, the lines on the SSD, the lines on the RAM, the lines on the motherboard. I'm very happy so far. It's now time for the cooler. So, all white cooler, we're gonna be mounting this at the top. It is a 360mm radiator, which is the maximum supported by the Hyte. It has 3 deep cool white non-RGB fans, white rods, and then this amazingly good looking block, which we will have to take off to mount it, by the way. Now, I was mounting the kit to install the deep cooler on the motherboard, and now they have different brackets. This is because in this way they do offset the mounting a little bit, kind of like what happens with the Noctua coolers, if you know that they perform a bit better if offsetted. So they have implemented this directly on the cooler, which is actually really nice. Okay, so since we had to mount the bracket on the top, we have to mount the motherboard from the top, which is very odd, but it's how Hyte wants you to do it, I guess. So very delicately, because if you scratch the motherboard, it's gone. And now you have to really nail it. We've done a pretty decent job. Now at this point, you can just slide it on top and everything will be mounted. On the Hyte Y60, they actually already give you a PCIe extension, this very aesthetic one, and now you just have to slot it into your motherboard PCIe slot, right there. and then you can just plug your graphic card vertically there, because the case does not actually support any amount of horizontal mounted cards. So guys, it's finally time to close it up. It took us a little bit to get it all mounted, but I think it came out pretty well. So guys, the PC is all done and working. However, as you might see, those two fans are missing, and I want to put two 140mm Arctic ones, like the ones we have on the back. But I will have to wait until I have it fully tuned up so that I can take the fans out of my main PC and put them here, as well as the two intake ones on the bottom. I want to replace the Hyte ones with some Arctic P12s RGB because they're the best on the market. So guys, the PC is ready. I'd say we peel it off. So here we are after the peel off, and now guys, I am really happy to have this on my setup. I could not have seen myself replacing the old Manta case from NZXT I had with anything different than a PC like this. I think it's definitely more new than the other one. This definitely looks a bit unique. We have this, again, deep cool cooler that really looks amazing, but I have maintained the infinity mirror that I had on the previous one. Then we still maintain the white and black theme, which I love. External white, internal black with accents of white. It matches my setup, at least I think, but do let me know, obviously. A couple of things have changed since the build. We actually replaced the RAM, so we went with those Team Group T-Force Delta in place of the XPGs, simply because they have 2 degrees of latency less, so they are C38 instead of C40, and we were encountering a bit of issues with the other ones compatibility wise, but it's normal because, again, I switched to AM5 and the platform is still very early in development. You are definitely a bit of a beta tester if you buy it this moment, I believe. Let's talk about the rest of the PC. We also added some Arctic fans on the bottom, as well as, again, those 2 140mm, one on the side as side intake and then one 120 as outtake. So we have a total of 4 fans in intake, 2 240 and 2 120, and then 3 120 as output, as well as another one of 120, the Arctic one. All in all, it is pretty much a neutral airflow configuration. And now, why did they pick the Arctic ones? Well, because they are simply the best, in my opinion, for looks and for performance, but especially for performance. They are all daisy chainable, so they're very easy to slot in, and you can just synchronize them all. I will show some b-roll of the PC actually fully synced, and it does look amazing. Plus, since it's all mesh, you can actually see the fans from the grill on the bottom, and performance-wise, they are actually insane. Do you think I should put some Arctic ones on the radiator as well? Because, again, I have a video on the channel which we test them out, and they perform actually slightly better than Noctua's, incredibly. I think it might be worth to. But now, talking about the case, again, very easy to build in. The Hyte Y60 is one of my favorite cases. I picked it for my personal build, so it has to be. All the cutouts were properly made. All the holes had rubber grommets on them, but they do not come off easily as in all the Cooler Master cases. These ones, they stay in place, and they really thought about everything for cable management. All the cutouts, the fans on the bottom were very easy to install, very easy to route. I'm very happy with it, and also I love the dual chamber design. Makes the PC be a little bit smaller, and I think it fits much better in my setup like that, so I really like it. Performance-wise, speaking about thermals, it's great, and we will go over the performance in a second because I have already tested the thing a bit. I have to admit that we will do some further testing, but so far this is just me talking, it's not scientific. But I have played some Apex Legends. I was also testing this new hex controller that you are seeing in this moment, and previously with the 3070 Ti and the i9 I was hovering at around 100 Hz all the time. When landing in Apex my FPS was dropping. Now we are at 144 Hz all the time. It doesn't matter what I do, it's just locked in 144 Hz, and I play at 3440 by 1440, and it's a very heavy resolution. The pixel count is pretty much very close to 4K, so it's as if I'm playing at 4K 100 Hz basically with G-Sync, so I'm very happy about it. And again, Apex is the main game I play, and this thing coupled with the new controller is really making me enjoy it more, and we'll definitely be playing it more. But I know you want synthetics, so I do have run a couple of synthetics for you guys, and the most impressive thing is the SSD. This T700 from Crucial, guys, it goes to 12,000 megabytes per second. At this moment, recording this video, it is the fastest NvMe SSD in the world, being Pcie Gen 5. And it does so while being relatively quiet. And it does so, again, thanks to the heatsink in the motherboard, which is extremely nice. It's the X670P from MSI, but it would be very good even if you didn't have a motherboard heatsink, because they sell it with the integrated heatsink as well. So that's probably the component that impressed me the most of the whole build, that one and the cooler, to be honest, because the cooler manages to keep the Ryzen 9, which has 12 core, 24 threads, under wraps. And I am running it at the moment at 5.6 GHz with a temperature limit of 80 degrees with a curve optimizer of -15 at this moment, because I want it to be very conservative in terms of stability. But we will have an undervolted tutorial for the CPU as well. The one for the GPU is already out. I tested it in a different build, so you can check that one out, because again, I run all my stuff undervolted. By doing that, you can keep the same performance, or in the case of the Ryzen, get a bit extra performance actually, for some reasons, I don't know why, but doing so while keeping the PC much quieter and consuming much less power. It's really insane. The power draw on this PC, again, we're running a 750 watts power supply at the moment, and it's drawing peak 500 watts. It's very little, I'm very happy with it. And now synthetic wise, I have around CPU-Z, and the CPU goes to 800 points in single core and around 12,000 points in multi-core. If I remember correctly, I will put results on the screen, but it's basically double in multi-core than my old i9. So editing those videos for you guys will be faster than ever. And then the single core really helps with the snappiness and really making the overall experience good and smooth. So I'm really happy with it too. The GPU, I don't have much to say. Again, I have another video which I go over all the specs, but it's just insane. It goes really fast, it's really quiet, it reaches a peak temperature of 60 degrees. After all that, goes to show just how good the airflow in the Hyte is, with the 2 liters from the bottom, and then all the hair being pushed out. I think it's running extremely quiet, extremely well. It's fanless most of the time, as it is right now, with the fans turned off. So I'm really happy with it. And to be honest, having switched to AMD, I didn't know I would have done that again, since I had a very bad experience with first gen Ryzen. I am liking it so far. It's stable, I'm not encountering any problems so far, and the OS migration too was very easy. So I'm very happy, honestly, but I ran a 5-stack too, because I like big numbers, and it did like 50k in graphics, 40k in physics, 10k in combined, insane score there. So the synthetics are back in the PC app. The secondary SSD, guys, the Verbatim Vi7000 too, with 7000 megabytes per second in read and write, it was extremely good. And now I am using it to store all my videos, so I need quick access to the storage, and I'm really happy with it so far. I love the aesthetics, I love how nice it looks on the setup, and I'm really enjoying it so far, but I do want to hear your opinion, guys. Do you like it? Would you have done anything different? I'm actually very interested in this, because I will be having the PC on the channel all the time. So guys, for this video is all. I will go enjoy this one, and I will see you in the next one, guys. Bye!